In the opening scene, we see a golf course, and it's the conclusion of an exciting week. A professional golf player, Whitney Jones-Bella, steps up to the tee to play. Another scene shows us a man who is watching her play on TV. The commentators mention how her game has suffered as of late, ever since her mom passed away 2 years ago. Her late mom, Alice, was also one of the great golf players during her time, all achieved with the support of her husband, Martin Bella, who is a golf course owner. The game continues with Whitney being given last-minute advice by her caddy, Andrew Klein. However, the tension between them shows that they are just not in sync. At the end of the game, Whitney finishes 12th place and qualifies for the Ladies' Easter European Open in Hungary the following month, while Brooke Bradshaw wins the game, making it her third tournament win of the season. After the game, Andrew expresses his displeasure with the way Whitney played, which was not how she used to play 2 years ago. That was when her mom coached her, but ever since her passing, she did not hire anyone to take up the coaching position and her career has suffered. Andrew wants her to either hire a coach or let him step up to the role, but Whitney reminds him that it is common knowledge that coaching her hasn't worked out. He suggests they go back to Arizona to talk things out as they prepare for the tournament, which is in a month. But she has her plans. She is flying back to Budapest right away to see her dad because it's his birthday and she's not planning on missing it. Another reason is that going home will help her decide if she still wants to keep playing. Andrew doesn't think leaving everything and going to Hungary is the best move with the Open fast approaching. Their careers are on the line if she is not prepared adequately. Seeing that she still insists on going to Budapest, Andrew quits right there and then. Whitney arrives home, welcomed by her father who isn't expecting her. She is excited to be home, away from the stress of her dwindling career. It seems even her father is seriously affected by the loss of his dear wife, such that he has chosen to be introverted, away from everyone else. Whitney hopes he can try and move on. Whitney recounts how Andrew quit because of her losing streak and her refusal to hire him as her coach. She still believes that no one can replace her mom. Her father reminds her that though that is true, it's a decision she will have to take eventually. She reveals her lack of motivation for the sport, but her father mentions that her mother wouldn't want her to give up on something she loves. In the next scene, Whitney gears up and heads to her father's golf course. She plugs in her earbuds and begins to practice. While she is there, a man drives up to her and mentions that he thought he knew everyone who gets to the course before the sun rises. However, because of the earbuds, she can't hear a word that he is saying. He walks up to her, which startles her. He apologizes and repeats his question by asking what time she is teeing off. She replies and he checks, but he does not see her on the list. She replies that she just checked the server, which makes him wonder how she could do that. Just as he is trying to put it all together, a guy named Laszlo drives up to them calling out Whitney's name. They exchange pleasantries and he is surprised she is not in Arizona training for her upcoming tournament. But she reveals that she came to surprise her dad for his birthday. When he leaves, the man who she was talking to earlier introduces himself as Daniel Balaz, the course pro. She remembers that her dad mentioned him joining the team. Then he leaves her to continue. After practicing, Whitney goes to get a coffee and gets emotional when she sees her mom's bistro, which has been closed since her passing. She overhears Daniel on the phone introducing himself as Martin Bella, her father, and walks into the office. When he ends his call, she accuses him of impersonating her father. This is when she learns that her father permitted him and it has been a long while since he came to office. Later, Whitney goes to her friend Susanna's bistro. She is so surprised and glad to see her friend. She is Laszlo's wife. They catch up on a couple of things and Whitney reveals that she is back home to figure everything out. Before leaving, her friend gives her some sandwiches for her and her dad. When she gets home, she meets her dad still sleeping. He adopted this habit to make the days shorter, his way of dealing with the emptiness left by his wife's passing. As they eat, she reveals that she met Daniel, who was pretending to be him. Her father gladly accepts that he does a good job of impersonating him, and he even makes him sound more youthful. This amuses Whitney. Her dad reveals that he doesn't go to the office because Daniel and Laszlo run the place now, because he has to deal with too many memories if he stays around. Speaking of memories, he reveals that he is thinking of selling because he is not happy there anymore. He and his wife had put everything they had into the course, and now that she is no more, the memories of her are everywhere he looks. He thinks a new place will ease the pain. He has already spoken to a realtor and signed a lasting agreement for 30 days the previous day. This comes as a shock to Whitney, but he assures her that it is nothing serious and he won't make any serious decisions without involving her. In the next scene, Whitney gets a message from her friend Susanna inviting her for dinner, which she gladly accepts. She sees the picture of a dog and remembers the dog she saw at her friend's that is up for adoption. An idea occurs to her. Whitney comes home with the dog and meets Daniel outside. Her dad also joins them and is surprised to see a dog. She brought it for him so it can keep him company, and if he doesn't like the dog, she can return it to her friend after a week. Her dad is not sure he can look after a dog, and he even claims he doesn't have time. Whitney and David share a knowing smile as he walks the new foster dog away. He asks her to come by the club as he subtly hints that he has seen her game and she can do better. The next morning, it appears the dog therapy is working because Martin and the dog go for a morning walk. Quite a change for someone who always sleeps into the afternoon. Whitney walks into her dad's office and sees a picture of her and her mom on the desk. She smiles as she reminisces on the good old days she had with her mom. When she goes to the field, she meets Daniel playing a different kind of golf. He calls it Kausar golf, basket golf. She is surprised with this type of golf and he encourages her to give it a try because it might help her short game. She smiles and chooses to pass on the offer. He talks about how he used to come to the golf and caddied during summer. They never got to meet because she was always competing. This was after her mom retired and encouraged her to take the mantle. Her mom retired back to the golf course and even ran a restaurant that her dad shut down after her passing. After their discussion, she meets a woman who introduces herself to her as Maria. Whitney remembers that her mom used to talk about her all the time. Maria was her favorite student. She reminisces on the good times she had. When Maria hears that her dad didn't go out much after her mom passed, she can relate because the same thing happened to her after her husband passed. It took her a while before she started spending time with her friends again. Whitney and her dad go into the city with the dog, which he is now quite fond of. She asks if he has thought about hiring a chef to start the restaurant again. He acknowledges that it was her mom's world and would prefer it to be closed, especially since there is a possibility of selling it. She mentions that she ran into Maria at the club. Her dad tells her that Maria and her late husband Irvin were the first to join the club after they took over. He is surprised that she joined the women's league and is still golfing every Tuesday, but he wouldn't know since he doesn't go to the club anymore. His daughter suggests he join the men's league, which used to be a tradition, but he doesn't have the courage yet. As regards the property, he hasn't heard from the real estate agent, but the idea of selling feels weird to Whitney. Even her dad never thought he would ever consider doing that. But life is another always as we plan it. He and his late wife had always thought they would grow old there and one day, maybe Whitney would come and take over. But with their current situation, he thinks her happiness matters more, especially since she has to chase her dreams. Whitney continues with practice. She has finally decided to learn Daniel's basket style. While playing, she learns that when he was a kid, he wanted to learn how to play, but his parents were too busy to take him to lessons, so he had to create his own game. He grew up in Budapest but went to an American school. His parents still live in the city and have a restaurant. He has a brother who also lives in Budapest and is a real estate attorney. Their game turns out to be fun, but Whitney points out that a big part of her career transcends the fun part, because she has to win and the last 2 years have not been the best for her. At this point in her career, she might have to quit because everything is not working in her favor. The Open tournament could be her last. Daniel suggests that she focus on enjoying the game instead of worrying about it. If she does this, the worst case scenario is that she loses and the next case is that she wins. Either way, she will have fun while at it. She sees reason in his point. He even offers to help if she needs his assistance. In the next scene, Whitney is with her friend Susanna and she tells her that she is glad she took the dog Zuki home because his dad is livelier than before. However, she is not sure he has thought of adopting the dog. She will determine in 1 week. Her friend wonders if she will stick around after the Open tournament, but she has not yet given it a thought. However, if she retires, she wants it to be because she has achieved everything she desires in sports, and not because she lost. Her friends advise her to remember why she loves playing golf. This surprises her because it's the same thing Daniel told her the previous day. Susanna talks well about Daniel being a smart man and a good friend. He got his brother to help her figure out what to do about her cafe. Things haven't been smooth with her cafe, with rents going up and profit declining. She doesn't think they can keep the cafe. Whitney feels sorry for her friend. Knowing how her friend loves being a chef, she asks if she has thought of getting another place, but she has not thought about it. Whitney continues to practice when Daniel walks up to her. She has not been having a good time at practice because she is used to working with someone. However, since Andrew, her former caddy who had been training her, quit, she is on her own now. She is trying to figure out if she still wants to compete. Daniel decides to step up and assist her in training. He takes her to another genius invention of his. Then he begins to teach her a new method of playing. The game turns out to be fun for Whitney. She quickly gets a hang of it. They continue with another type of training. After the training, she appreciates Daniel for his effort. He reminds him of when she used to play with her mom, which used to be fun. She has decided to give the tournament one last shot, but if it doesn't work out, then she is finished with it. In the next scene, her dad and Zuki walk to meet her at a spot on the course. Whitney is surprised to see him out there and he tells her that the dog dragged him out there. The place used to be one of his favorite spots. He used to come there with his late wife and he misses her greatly. Sometimes, he wonders if he should have done more for her, like getting better treatment for her. Whitney assures him that he did everything he could. The last thing her mom would want is for him to blame himself. She believes her mom would have wanted him to be happy. It appears they are in the same boat, so he reminds her that the same applies to her, especially since her mom's passing has greatly affected her career. Nevertheless, he appreciates her for coming home, caring for him, and bringing the dog into his life. Suki greatly helped him with going out every morning, but he is not yet considering adoption. He still prefers to foster. Later, Daniel meets Whitney heading for another round of practice. She asks his opinion on how to get her dad out of the house more often, especially if he decides not to adopt Suki. Daniel can confirm that he never seems interested in going out. Whitney suggests they have a members' day and have it over his old friends for a barbecue. They used to have it every year. That way, he would be able to see the beauty in relationships once again. The idea sounds great and Daniel is up for the planning by sending emails amongst others. She mentions that Laszlo knows all his old friends, so he will be able to help them with it. He also offers to practice with her. On the course, she realizes that he plays beautifully and wonders if he ever thought of going pro. But Daniel is not a man who likes competition, so he prefers to teach. When Whitney hits a shot, he sees that it is not good enough. He wonders what was on her mind when she took the shot. She reveals that before playing, she is always thinking of expectations and winning. In the past, when she was on a winning streak, everyone always complimented how she was just like her mom. But, now that she is gone, people talk about how she is not measuring up. He advises her to not let people get into her head. Whitney confesses that she also has a high expectation of herself and it is sad that she is not measuring up. Daniel then begins to teach her how to change her mindset while playing. She tries his method and it turns out great. After practice, she appreciates him for helping out. But before she leaves, one can see the affection that has begun to build up for her in his face. Just as Whitney leaves, Bianca, a real estate agent, walks up to Daniel to inform him that she will be bringing some clients the next day. The next morning, Whitney approaches Daniel and brings him a cup of coffee. She asks for his help with practice and he gives her time. When she hands over his coffee to him, he is surprised that it is labeled, Coach. After the previous day's practice, she has realized that he is a breath of fresh air in her dwindling career, and wishes he helps her practice as her coach. He corrects her for speaking negatively about herself and gladly accepts her proposal. After their conversation, Whitney sees a lady arriving. It is Bianca, the same lady who had been with Daniel the previous day. She introduces herself as her father's real estate agent. Bianca has brought over some clients for property inspection. Whitney isn't aware and she reveals that she made the appointment with Daniel the previous day. She even praises him as her go-to person and a nice guy. She believes this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that her father won't be able to turn down. After meeting with Bianca, Whitney is greatly troubled and not happy. She goes to meet Daniel. She accuses him of setting up an appointment to sell the place and doesn't think he has the right to do that behind her dad's back. He apologizes but reminds her that her dad intends to sell the place. She walks off angrily, leaving him confused. Whitney meets with her dad to tell him about meeting Bianca. She expresses her dissatisfaction with the whole property assessment and how Bianca met with Daniel behind him. Her dad reveals that he authorized Daniel to oversee the process. She realizes that she owes Daniel an apology for how she went off on him. Whitney confesses that she is not pleased with the fact that he wants to sell the golf course to live somewhere else. She urges him to reach out to his friends and suggests they host the barbecue event they used to have when her mom was alive. Her dad is surprised that she intends on organizing such an event, even with her upcoming tournament, but he listens to her anyway. She tells him that Daniel and Laszlo will help her with organizing the whole thing. He thinks it sounds nice and he promises to show up for the event. In the next scene, Whitney goes to town and stops by a flower shop to purchase a flower. On her way, she runs into Daniel and apologizes for her actions the previous day. She confesses that she is still shocked that her dad is considering selling the property. Daniel understands that the course means more than business to her. If they eventually sell it, he will also be affected and will need to look for a job elsewhere. She suggests they talk more later as she is on her way to Zasana and Laszlo's place for dinner. As she leaves, he catches up to her and she reveals her dad is in with the barbecue event, so he will proceed with the emails. Daniel continues to walk with Whitney in her direction until she reminds him that he is supposed to go the other way. He reveals he is also invited to dinner. As they walk, she reveals that part of her reluctance in selling the golf course is because it holds some good memories with her mom. Her favorite memory was when she got her first hole because she accidentally broke her mom's watch in the process. Her mom never fixed the watch. She wants it to be a reminder of her daughter's great milestone, and Whitney happens to be wearing the watch. Daniel is touched by this story and promises to do everything he can to help her in the tournament. They look at each other lovingly. At the dinner, Zasana reveals that they decided to close the restaurant because the rent has gone up beyond what they can afford, so they will be leaving in a couple of weeks. Laszlo reveals if the sale of the resort comes through, he would like to stay on, but if the new owners don't keep him, he and his wife would get a place elsewhere. It is evident that the fate of many relies on the golf course and their life will be affected if it is sold. Whitney offers the job of catering to Zasana at the barbecue club. She and her husband excitedly accept the deal. Even Daniel offers his help. As they walk back home later that night, Daniel asks that she accompany him to his family's restaurant the next day. The next day, they visit his family's restaurant and Daniel's parents warmly welcome them. He introduces Whitney and they are delighted to meet her. Whitney is surprised that the event is his mom's birthday party. They dance and have fun. As they walk back to the course, Whitney appreciates his family. She reveals that there's no one special in her life, it has all been about work for her. The only other close friend she has is Andrew and they never dated. Her career leaves no chance of having a relationship. The next morning, her dad meets her outside. He reveals he had a tough time sleeping because Bianca called that the people she brought might be making an offer. But he is not sure what his decision will be and he has been thinking about it, especially his wife. He thought selling the place would fix everything but he is not sure. His daughter's presence reminds him of how much he loves the place. Currently, he doesn't want to leave. And he has grown fond of Zuki, the dog, but he has not yet decided. He wants to take a couple of days to think the offer through. He decides to do what he hasn't done in forever, go down to the office to see how things are and talk with Laszlo. The father and daughter go on a walk. They come across Maria, who is surprised to see Martin out and about. She expresses how happy she is to be on the course and to be with friends and family. Whitney sees Daniela and excuses herself. Maria offers Daniel a cup of coffee so that they can catch up. Whitney reveals the update with Bianca. Daniel believes the news will relieve her dad, but she reveals that news conflicted him. She invites him to dinner to help cheer her dad up. In the next scene, Daniel helps her out in the kitchen. She appreciates him for his effort towards the barbecue event. There has been a lot of progress. The news of her training on the course sparks up interest and many are showing great interest in the event. Even the local TV stations all want interviews. She notices that contrary to what he claims, he has great culinary skills. She reveals she went to stay in Arizona not just because of her training, but because it is where her mom went to school and met her dad, who was in a graduate program for golf course management. Her mom was a single parent when she met her dad, and after they got married when she was 8, he adopted her, and he has been the only father she knows ever since. Her dad grew up in Budapest and the course was started by her great-grandfather and has been passed down through generations. Daniel also reveals that he went to the University of Stanford on a golf scholarship, but after he graduated, he was on the amateur circuit. After he made the cut to turn pro, he injured his shoulder. Ever since, he just couldn't get back into the game. That's when he fell in love with teaching. He believes things always work out the way they are supposed to. In the next scene, they sit to eat with her father. The dinners make it feel like home again to him. After the meal, he appreciates her and mentions that it was nice having Daniel over. He narrates how he had coffee with Maria and they catch up on the good old days. She has gotten in touch with the old crew and they are coming to the barbecue party. Whitney is happy that he is reconnecting again. Although, he has not heard anything from Bianca as regarding the sale. She reveals that she wants to inform Andrew that she has asked Daniel to be her caddy, but her dad doesn't think she owes him that after the way he treated her. However, she decides to text him for old time's sake. The course has experienced a great turnaround with people calling ever since they heard she is training there. She asks Daniel, who is on a call, to meet with her when he is done. As she gets outside, she is surprised to see Andrew. He is in the neighborhood and he came as soon as he got her message. She reveals that she is about to ask Daniel to be her caddy for the tournament. He is angry and she reminds him that he quit on her. He claims he was frustrated and asks that he be her caddy again. After he insists, she accepts on the condition that he won't try to coach her. Meanwhile, Bianca brings news to Martin that they have an offer, but he tells her that he is reconsidering selling the place. She gives him 24 hours to consider the offer. In the next scene, Daniel looks out the window and is surprised to see Andrew training with Whitney. After training, Whitney tells her dad about her ordeal with Andrew and he advises her to tell Daniel about it. He also informs her of Bianca's visit and her offer, which is a lot of money, 8 million euros. The next day, Whitney goes to practice with Andrew and she looks around for Daniel. When Laszlo tells him that she came looking for him, he notices that he seems off. He lies, saying he's feeling exhausted because of all the event planning. He reveals that he got a job offer that morning, but he will only consider it if Martin sells the place. Whitney runs into Damiel and she introduces him to Andrew. She tries talking to him, but he says he is busy and he reminds her of the press meeting. The next day, Whitney gets interviewed. She reveals that for the past 3 weeks, she has been training with Daniel. This makes Andrew feel bad. After the interview, he confronts her and vents out his displeasure because she did not mention his name. He angrily walks off. Bianca comes to meet Martin, but he declines the offer. He is speechless when she demands her commission, which is required whether he accepts the offer or not. Later, Whitney meets her dad, who is in with the huge amount of money Bianca demands for her commission. He doesn't have the money and Whitney is shocked. This makes him begin to consider selling the property. He can't even take out a mortgage because they had previously done so. She suggests talking to Daniel because his brother is a real estate attorney and he might be able to help them. The next morning, Whitney explains everything to Daniel, who is willing to help. She asks that he help her with the training. Daniel expresses himself by suggesting that she do that with Andrew and he might be able to help after the tournament. She is shocked as he walks off. In the next scene, Whitney explains how things have turned out with Daniel after Andrew showed up. He encourages her that it will turn out well. Just like finally adopting Zuki has turned out well for him. She is happy that her dad has decided to keep the dog. Whitney is leaving the next day, so she goes to say goodbye to Daniel. She invites him to the tournament, but he claims he is busy. He promises to help her fix the commission issue with Bianca. When he leaves, she sees the job offer letter he forgot and she is heartbroken. It's finally the opening day of the tournament and Whitney has a great start. Later, she checks her phone and there is no text from Daniel. She looks at their pictures and feels a surge of emotions. The day 2 of the tournament goes by and Whitney is a bit distracted. She has a little argument with Andrew, who advises her to stay focused because he didn't come back to lose. As he bugs her, she angrily plays the ball and it goes right in, making her qualify for the next round. Andrew downplays her effort by saying the putt was just pure luck. Having had enough, she has had enough of his condescending remarks, so she fires him. Meanwhile, Daniel watches at his parents' restaurant. His mom notices his countenance. He wants to be with her and she encourages him to go. His brother comes bearing good news. The commission Bianca is requesting is invalidated because she has been representing both sides, both the buyer and seller. That means fraud. His dad also comes to encourage him to go be with Whitney because action speaks louder. Daniel goes to meet her and he tells her the good news regarding the situation with Bianca. She reveals that she fired Andrew. Now, she needs to figure out what to do next. Daniel offers to step in as her caddy but she declines. She wonders when he will resume his new job offer. He reveals that he isn't leaving since the golf course is not being sold. He had been distant from her not because of the offer but because he overheard when she and Andrew argued about having two coaches. He thinks it's best to give her space. She explains what's happened to him and he apologizes. The final day of the competition kickstarts with Daniel as her new caddy. Whitney and Brooke tie. Brooke compliments her on Daniel as her new caddy. They can all see that she is happy with him by her side. Eventually, Whitney wins the tournament using the skill Daniel taught her. She won as the ladies' Eastern European champion. They all celebrate her win happily. In the next scene, she is surprised that her dad has reopened her mom's restaurant with Susanna running it. They toast to her win. Whitney reveals to Daniel that she has decided to stay back. Daniel confesses his love to her and she does the same. They kiss to a new beginning of love.